From advertising to software as a service to data.
Across all of our programs and clients, we've seen a 55 to 65% open rate.
Getting brands authentically integrated into content performs better than TV advertising.
Typical lifespan of an article is about 24 to 36 hours.
If we're reaching out to the right person with the right message and a clear call to action, then it's just a matter of timing.
Welcome to the MarTech Podcast, and I Hear Everything production. In this podcast, you'll hear the stories of world-class marketers that use technology to drive business results and achieve career success. We'll unearth the real-world experiences of some of the brightest minds in the marketing and technology space so you can learn the tools, tips, and tricks they've learned along the way. Now here's the host of the MarTech Podcast, Benjamin Shapiro.
Welcome to the MarTech Podcast. I'm your host, Benjamin Shapiro, and today we're going to discuss the differences between UGC and influencers. Joining us is Danil Saliukov, who is the CEO and co-founder of Insense, which is a creator commerce marketplace that helps source UGC creators and scale influencer campaign. With over 20,000 vetted creators across the United States, Canada, and the UK, Insense is helping brands not only create better ads, but also work with influencers. And in addition to providing us with our guest today, Insense is also a sponsor of the MarTech Podcast. Yesterday, Danil and I talked about the difference between UGC creators and micro-influencers. And today we're going to continue the conversation talking about whether you should hire actors or creators. All right, here's the second part of my conversation with Danil Saliukov, the CEO and co-founder of Insense. Danil, welcome back to the MarTech Podcast.
Thank you for having me again.
Excited to have you back on the show. Excited to still have you as a sponsor of the MarTech Podcast and also to continue our conversation. So yesterday we talked about UGC and micro-influencers. Should you be working with professional creators who are going to create a great piece of content, but that can't necessarily help you distribute it? Or do you go down the micro-influencers who have a relationship with an audience, but might not be as good of an actual content creator? And there's benefits to both different ways. Today, I want to turn the conversation a different direction and talk about the actual fidelity that's needed. We talked a little bit yesterday about, well, people aren't producing TV commercials, they're producing social media posts. And so you need something that looks a little bit more authentic. So talk to me about finding the right creators. Is there still value in hiring actors to create your content, or is just everything towards these semi-pro creators?
We've been observed like some of the great companies who are really focused on the same industry as we are, so mid-market e-commerce, 7-8 figures in annualized sales. They have had like a really great success working with actors. So they don't work with semi-professional creators a lot of time. No, they actually are working with the professional actors who are acting at this stage in the theaters or like in some TV series and so on. And they had this success. And I think there is no rule that you should work only with the creators or actors. It really depends on your creative strategy. If you have like a lot of understanding of what type of the content you would like to produce and like it's going to be working like really well, then you might go and work with the actors. If you're still in the learning curve stage, then 100% is better to start with the creators. And the reason why is simple. Working with the creators, it's scalable. You can hire so many, like hundreds of them. You can test like different creative hypotheses with them. And then like see what resonates with the audience and what is not. With the actors, you need to pay much more to them and like hiring a production studio to film this content. It's better to go back to them once you realize what is the working for you and you have budgets for that. Because again, the difference in the pricing could be like 10x, 20x comparing with the creators. So our ideal formula is that finding UGC creator who has some background in acting and the stage. That's the best ones.
You totally took my next question is, are you working with actors because actors generally come with production crews and that means that the total quality is going to be better? Or can you just find somebody who's a good actor, but you're not getting a great production crew? Can you pay for the talent and shoot it on your iPhone yourself? or do you need to match an actor with a professional videographer and all the costs that go with producing great content?
Yeah, I think if you're creating the content for performance marketing, sometimes it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of money for that and doing super scientific work. Because in the end of the day, okay, you spend $5,000 for one piece of the content, hiring the professional videographers, studio and all of the stuff. And I'll show this video to you, to all of my friends, to professionals in the industry, and we all will love this content. But the problem is that once I upload that to the Facebook Ads Manager, sometimes it just doesn't work. And no one knows why is that? Because of something there, it's less authentic. Maybe it's too professional, where I'm just basically swiping my feed or my stories and I'm seeing I don't know, my friends jumping from the second floor to the pool, something crazy, and it's more authentic. And then I am seeing something super professional is filmed there. So that might be the problem with working with actors. With the creators, it's always much easier. But again, it's better to find creators. Maybe they don't have a lot of followers, but they have some experience acting on the stage. This one is the best one because people, they know how to act in front of the camera. They know how to be emotional in the camera and share their real experience.
Sounds like what you're looking for is a user-generated content creator that is not terrified to jump off a building into a swimming pool. That's the ideal scenario here. Somebody who doesn't quite understand the liability of jumping into a large body of water.
At least not to be shy, to speak in front of the camera. But yeah, that will be the ideal. I'll add here, it's a funny thing. One of the niche is really fascinating, comedians. So there are a lot of great people in comedian space, but they didn't have a lot of followers. I'm not saying celebrity comedians. No, I'm saying someone who are just starting their career. So they can act really great in front of the camera. They won't charge you as the influencers, a top ones. And that's the best match.
You can get in front of the funny people. That's always wonderful. I guess the question next is, all right, you can find hidden talent. Get a comedian, maybe you can get an actor, somebody that has some acting experience, but they're really a UGC creator. Is there a scenario where it has benefit to get someone who is recognizable, to actually work with a celebrity or an influencer, the Kim Kardashians of the world? Can I go hire Taylor Swift as an example to be a representative for my brand? Yeah, I just have to pay a ton for it. Kim Kardashian, same thing. Where does it make sense to actually work with people that are visible and maybe more credible in the eyes of their consumers?
Yeah, I think two items. First of all, you clearly understand how it's going to be integrated to your brand strategy in a long-term run. So one-off campaigns doesn't work. So one video with this person, it just doesn't work because you're putting all of the eggs in one bucket. So it's not cool. The second one is money. So typically such collaborations and a long-term relations with celebrity style influencers or celebrities, it's definitely something that you should think twice and have budgets for that. Then if you have both, clear understanding about brand strategy and ready to play long-term with them, and you have money for that, go for it. For sure. Probably is going to be a really great success if you feel that this person also shares the value of your brand. Then it's a perfect match.
I think that that's a good point. If the person shares the values of your brand, if you can find someone who is a celebrity that people clearly relate with what you're trying to get across. I'm trying to think of an example of somebody who's great in fitness. I guess let's just take an example of a generic professional athlete, right? Somebody that everyone's seen, LeBron James. And if I'm working on someone that is durable and healthy and consistently performant, LeBron James is a great match. Now, he's probably pretty darn expensive, and you're probably only going to get one piece or two pieces of content out of him, but sometimes the juice is worth the squeeze. So help me balance the entire spectrum here. I can go and I can find a user-generated content producer that no one's ever heard of, that doesn't have acting experience, and I could pay a little bit of money to start getting some creative produced. I could work with a comedian who isn't necessarily as well recognized, but is familiar in front of the camera, an actual actor, an actor with a production crew, and a celebrity. How do you make the decision between that entire spectrum and figure out where you should be investing your content dollar?
I would say it's definitely framed by your budgets. If you would like to work and ready to work with a celebrity, but you don't have enough budgets for that, then probably it's not a good run. That's number one. The second one, it's about brand itself. So if you're building the brand and you share and drive some values, because not every e-commerce brands, they heavily investing in their brand, to be honest. So if you do have that, it makes sense again to invest in the brand awareness and having some great faces in the camera who is going to be like also defending your values across the all social media that they have, then like it makes sense. But if you're in a position that you don't have enough budget, you cannot afford Kim Kardashian or LeBron James, and you're not that heavily investing in your brand and like sharing the values, the choice that I have either going to some creative agency or production studios and hiring actors who are not celebrities, they're just acting, they're just younger professionals probably, or like niche, or working with the UGC creators. I would say go for UGC creators, at least at the beginning, while you figure out what is the strategy. And then you can always go to these agencies and hire for the thousands of dollars like per piece of the content once you figure out what actually works for you, what is the hooks, what is the idea behind of that.
Test, iterate, figure out what works, and you can always go from less fidelity to reproducing similar videos once you have some learnings, and then you're de-risking your overall content creation strategy. Danil, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and telling us a little bit about how we should be creating our content. Any last words before I let you go?
Just to reinforce, like test and learn, figure out there is no silver bullet, there is no clear strategy how to tackle this world. There's only one rule right now because of the iOS 14, and you're doing a lot of performance marketing. Test and learn, produce tons of the content, see like what is going to be performing for you, and please share that.
All right. Great advice. And that wraps up this episode of the Martech Podcast. Thanks for listening to my conversation with Danil Saliukov, the co-founder and CEO of Insense. If you'd like to get in touch with Danil, you can find a link to his LinkedIn profile in our show notes. You can contact him on Twitter. His handle is Danil Saliukov. That's DanilSalukov. Or you could visit his company's website, which is insense.pro, INSENSE.pro. Just one more link in our show notes I'd like to tell you about. If you didn't have a chance to take notes while you were listening to this podcast, head over to martechpod.com where we have summaries of all of our episodes and contact information for our guests. You could also subscribe to our weekly newsletter, and you can even send us your topic suggestions or your marketing questions, which we'll answer live on our show. Of course, you can always reach out on social media. Our handle is MarTechPod, MarTechPod, on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or you can contact me directly. My handle is Ben J. Shap, BenJShap. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you want a daily stream of marketing and technology knowledge in your podcast feed, we're going to publish an episode every day this year. So hit the subscribe button in your podcast app, and we'll be back in your feed tomorrow morning. All right, that's it for today. But until next time, my advice is to just focus on keeping your customers happy.